A Boeing 747 with 524 people on board. At 24,000 feet, the tail of the plane suddenly gets separated in the air. The flight crew had neither controls nor direction. There was neither oxygen nor air pressure in the cabin. But despite that, how did they keep the plane in the air for the next 45 minutes? This is the story of human courage, engineering failure, and a flight that had no control left. And that flight was Japan Air 123. Once again, the videos of the TV Comfort Nazarene on 12th August 1985. A Boeing 747 of Japan Airlines was parked at Tokyo's Haneda Airport and was offloading passengers. Exactly 1 hour later, it was to take off again and go to Osaka. Thousands of people travel from Tokyo to Osaka every day, but today was a little extra busy as people were heading to their hometowns for the Japanese holiday season, Obon. After the plane was cleaned at Haneda Airport, 509 passengers and 15 crew members boarded Japan Air 123. It was a routine flight for the crew, but the passengers did not know that the plane they were traveling on suffered from a years-old weakness. A horrifying problem that neither the pilots nor the flight engineer knew about. Due to the busy schedule, this special Boeing 747 was going to have its 6th flight today. Talking about the 3 cockpit crew, 49-year-old Captain Masami Takahama would lead the flight, who had a total of 12,000 hours of experience. The first officer was 39-year-old Yutaka Sasaki, who was already in the process of being promoted to captain, and this flight was the most important for his promotion. He had a total experience of 3,900 hours. The third cockpit crew was 46-year-old flight engineer Hiroshi Fukuda, whose job was to sit behind the pilot seats and keep an eye on the technical issues of the plane. Seeing the capability of the cockpit crew, it would not be wrong to say that the lives of 509 passengers are in safe hands. But like the crew, is this plane also capable or not? This will be known in a short while. At 6:04 p.m., the doors of Japan Air 123 were closed, and the pilot started taxiing the plane to runway 15L. This was going to be a very short flight from Tokyo to Osaka, just 1 hour and 12 minutes. That is, as soon as the plane reached its cruising altitude of 24,000 feet, preparations for landing would begin. The weather in Tokyo was absolutely clear, but today many thunderstorms were emerging in Japan, due to which the pilot was instructed not to fly directly from Tokyo to Osaka, but over the ocean. Now, Japan Air 123 was all set for takeoff on runway 15L. After getting permission from the control tower at 6:12, the pilot raised the thrust levers of the plane and took off successfully. Whatever happened till here was absolutely normal, but exactly 12 minutes after takeoff, a loud noise is heard inside the plane over Sagami Bay, and at the same time, a hole is created in the tail section. The excitement of the passengers, who were so excited to go home, turns into fear in a moment. Because due to the hole, there is a commotion in the cabin, and loose objects start getting pulled towards the hole. All this happened so fast that it was difficult to even imagine what happened. This sound was so loud that it was heard in the cockpit as well. This sound was felt like this in the cockpit voice recorder. It is important to know here that as the plane goes into attitude, the air outside becomes thinner and the oxygen level also decreases. To counter this, artificial pressure is filled inside the cabin, which is almost equal to the atmospheric pressure of the ground, which means that at 24,000 feet, the pressure outside is less and the pressure inside the cabin is more. And this high air pressure is constantly exerting pressure on the walls of the cabin from inside. The cabin of the plane is kept completely airtight so that this artificial pressure does not leak in any way. But if any small part of the cabin is weak, then the air pressure can tear that place and create a hole, due to which the artificial pressure of the cabin will end and the health of the passengers can deteriorate. Apart from this, due to low oxygen level, breathing problems can also occur. Something similar happened in Japan Air 123, but till now, both the pilots were not aware of this. In the cockpit voice recorder, they were heard talking to each other, in which sometimes they talked about the landing gear door breaking, and sometimes they thought that perhaps this sound came from the engine. But the reality was that the rearmost part of the fuselage had separated from the plane, and it also took away the rudder. Due to the tail of the fuselage being torn, now the pressure in the cabin will not be maintained, but the separation of the rudder, which is the part attached to the tail, means that the plane is now going out of the control of both the pilots. The job of the rudder is to control the movement of the plane. When any plane takes a turn, this movement is called roll movement. The movement of nose up or nose down is called pitch, whereas the direction of nose horizontally in left-right is called yaw movement. In simple words, Japan Air 123 could not turn properly due to lack of rudder at around 24,000 feet. Neither will it be able to run nor align itself with the runway while landing. But what is even more dangerous is that both the pilots have no idea that the rudder has come out. The plane is no longer stable like before, and it starts swinging left and right on its own. It was beyond the autopilot's capability to control it. A person on the ground below felt something was wrong after seeing the movement of the plane, and took a photo. In this photo, it is clearly visible that a part of the rudder is missing from the tail. Before the two pilots could understand anything, the cabin crew was heard making an announcement, instructing the passengers to sit on their seats with their belts fastened. On the other hand, the captain in the cockpit sensed something fishy, and first of all, he put the frequency of the transformer on 703, which is a universal distress signal. This means that now all the control towers will know that Japan Air 123 is in an emergency situation. The captain decided to land the plane back in Tokyo. But is the plane capable of doing this or not? First of all, he informed the control tower about the emergency situation and asked for permission to land back in Tokyo. The control tower gave the captain permission to take a 90-degree turn and land in Tokyo. The first officer who was sitting on the controls turned the plane to the right at an angle of exactly 40 degrees. But both the pilots became more frightened after seeing that the angle of the plane was much more than 40 degrees. At this point, the captain was heard shouting at the first officer to reduce the bank angle, but the angle did not reduce under any circumstances. The co-pilot tried again and again, but the plane was not responding to any of his inputs. Meanwhile, the flight engineer told both the pilots that the hydraulic pressure was decreasing rapidly, and within no time, the hydraulic pressure came down to 0. This was the point when the three crew members in the cockpit realized that the plane was now out of their control. For those who do not know, let us tell them that all the controls of the plane, including ailerons for left-right turn, elevators for pitch, flaps for reducing speed, it is impossible to move all these with hands during flight, especially when 1,000 kilometers per hour wind is blowing from the front. That is why they are moved with the help of hydraulic pressure, and the tail of Japan Air 123, which broke, had also torn some hydraulic pipes. This was the reason that now the entire hydraulic pressure of the plane was also lost, and the cockpit controls were left like a showpiece. At a height of 24,000 feet, Japan Air 123 had become a victim of many problems. The cabin pressure had ended. Oxygen masks came out. Due to the loss of hydraulic pressure, its controls had become useless, and the most dangerous thing was that now the passengers and pilots started suffering from hypoxia due to low pressure. Hypoxia is the condition when there is confusion due to low oxygen level in the body. It becomes difficult to take decisions. Movements slow down, and even a person may faint. Meanwhile, the cabin crew is heard making an announcement to wear oxygen masks. Whatever happened on August 12th, now, Japan Air 123 was making severe roll movements and scaring the passengers. Both the pilots now had only one control left, and that was the engine controls. The captain tried to get the plane out of the roll movement by using only the engine controls. If the plane has to be turned right, then the power of the left side engines has to be increased. And if the plane has to be turned left, then the power of the right side engines has to be increased. Similarly, when the plane banks towards the right in the roll movement, then only the power of the right engines can be increased for a certain time to straighten it again. Using this method, the pilots controlled the roll movement of the plane to a great extent. Now, their only mission was to land the plane back at Tokyo Airport as soon as possible. But before that, the plane had to be brought closer to the ground so that the pressure in the cabin could increase. For this purpose, elevators are used, which were now useless due to lack of hydraulic pressure. So the captain gave the idea of lowering the landing gear. The landing gear creates extra drag in the plane, which can reduce the speed. But this landing gear also opens with hydraulic pressure. So the captain decided to open the landing gear with its own weight, and luckily it opened. Now at 6:45, Japan Air 123 makes a round over the city of Otsuki, and its altitude drops from 24,000 feet to 13,500 feet, which was a great achievement for the pilots. Both the pressure and oxygen in the cabin improve. But the danger is not over yet. They had to take a right turn from here and go towards Tokyo, but turning the plane only through the engine controls was creating a lot of difficulty for the pilots. If they increased the thrust of the engine, the nose of the plane would go up a lot, which was also reducing the speed. And if the speed decreased too much, the plane could collapse and fall to the ground. Unwillingly, the plane now entered the mountainous region of Japan. Turning the plane towards Tokyo at low altitude without controls seemed an impossible task. At 6:48, the captain was heard telling the first officer to turn right as there was a mountain ahead. But maybe it was not possible to take such a sharp turn with the help of engine controls alone. At this time, various alarms were heard ringing in the cockpit. Despite not wanting it, the plane had reached a height of only 6,800 feet above the mountain range, far away from Tokyo. After a few minutes, at 6:54 p.m., the captain's frustration was clearly evident in his voice. And then, finally, after 2 minutes, some such sounds were recorded in the cockpit. While turning, Japan Air's Tiara collided with a mountain due to low altitude. Only 4 people survived in this accident, who were sitting on the left side in the center of the cabin. The lives of all the other crew and passengers were lost in this horrific accident. Investigation revealed that 7 years ago, the tail of this plane hit the runway while landing. After that, the plane was grounded for repairs for several weeks, and Boeing technicians kept repairing it. Investigation revealed that the technicians had installed the tail's splice plate incorrectly. Investigators calculated that this faulty repair can pressurize the cabin only for 11,000 cycles, whereas Japan Air 123 had completed 12,500 cycles in the same condition, and coincidentally could not bear this pressure on this day. After this accident, investigators made 4 different pilots go through the same conditions in a flight simulator, but all 4 pilots crashed the plane, and none of the pilots could keep the plane in the air for as long as Japan Air 123 did. This is quite surprising, because the pilots sitting in the simulator had 2 big advantages. Firstly, they already knew what the issue was, and secondly, they had the peace of mind that they would not lose their lives. Looking at these conditions, it would not be wrong to say that both the pilots of Japan Air 123 tried very hard to control the plane till the last breath and kept it in the air for 45 minutes. Thanks for watching World Trending Wave. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe channel.